Hi everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List, and my hair is absolutely crazy. And we are going to officially start my November TBR this week. I have one book left over from my October TBR that I need to read, but I've technically started November TBR already with an audiobook. So let's get into the week. So today's Tuesday, as always. Even though my vlog says that it goes from Monday to Monday, I tend to start them on Tuesdays, but it's fine. So I went to Chicago last night, which means that I listened to another, honestly, like, almost 40% of Proper Scoundrels. Proper Scoundrels is a spin-off series by the author Allie Therin, who has a series called Magic in Manhattan, and this is a spin-off following two of the characters that are side characters in that main series. And it is a, I guess, paranormal fantasy. There's magic, but it's kind of hidden a little bit. So one of the main characters, Sebastian de Leon, has magic, and he had been under blood magic for like 3 years, so someone else had been controlling him and using him to do very not so nice things. And he has recently been freed from that. The other main character, Wesley, or Lord Fine, does not have magic, did not know that magic existed until this book. But he has had a run-in with Sebastian before where he heard his voice, and when they meet in this book, he immediately recognizes him as a person who had done a not nice thing to an acquaintance of his. So they get off to kind of like a rocky start, but they end up having to sort of team up both for like help and protection to try to figure out these like series of murders that are happening that seem to be paranormal. So the main thing is that both of them are very attractive and their banter is really funny. And they also have a lot of trauma that they kind of like understand and help the other person through. So it's very cute. I'm really enjoying it. I honestly will probably finish it tomorrow because I think I have like 3 hours left of the audiobook, and I listen on 1.2. Mostly on Audible, so I think it's like 1.25, honestly. So yeah, I will probably end up finishing it tomorrow, and then I'll just like, I guess, just listen to a different book. I'm tempted to get the sequel and just listen to it. But you know, whatever. So there's that. I didn't read physically yesterday. I was focusing on my to-do list, but I did start on my homework, which included reading the speech by Martin Luther King Jr., I Have a Dream. And I Have a Dream is on Storygraph as its own individual thing, and therefore it counts as a book. Part of me feels like I shouldn't count it because it was pretty short, and it feels like I'm cheating on my reading goal, but I'm the only person who has to live with that, and I would rather, it's still reading. I'm still reading. It's not like I'm lying about, you know, the books that I'm reading. Like, I am legitimately reading things. Some of them just happen to be shorter than others. And I think that's okay. So it's just me that has to live with it. But so I'm counting it. So I read I Have a Dream. It's a solid speech. You know, it's famous for a reason. I did rate it because I, you know, tracked it in my cop pile. I put it on Storygraph. I did rate it. I believe I gave it 4 stars. Hold on, let me double check. Oh, no, I gave it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars. That makes more sense because I was like, why would I give it 4 stars? It's a really good speech. So I gave it 5, and then also, as part of my homework for this class this week, I also have to read Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I've Been to the Mountaintop, as well as Malcolm X's speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. So with those two, and obviously like my reading novels and audiobooks and stuff like that, I will get caught up with my reading goal, which will be great. So that's good, because I've been behind. Like, honestly, I've been behind ever since I listened to Vanity Fair, because it took me the whole month to listen to, which is why I'm hesitant to listen to The Count of Monte Cristo, because I know it's going to take me a full month, and I worry it's going to put me behind on my reading goal again. So yeah, there's that. That's all I did. Yeah, I have a day at work. It's not a super busy day. It's not a very light day though either. But I have a day, and I'm not super concerned about it. So I'll be able to get some stuff. I do have a lot of anxiety because today is election day. And while I don't talk about politics on my channel, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. And the elections will determine my mood for tomorrow. So I will be, I don't even know what time polls close, but I will be checking on that throughout the day. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep working on the stuff I gotta do, and I will let you know when I read next. Okay, so on Wednesday? Today's Thursday, yes. On Wednesday, I did a decent amount of reading. I did not read a physical book, I will say that, but I did read 2 speeches for a class, which are in Storygraph as their own like book, so they count towards my reading goal. And I finished an audiobook, so I'm going to go through them in order. I read Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, I've Been to the Mountaintop. I thought it was really powerful. It brought up a lot of good points. I will say it didn't hit me as much as the I Have a Dream speech, which I think makes sense. But it was interesting to read because it was the last speech that he gave before he was assassinated. And so that made it a little like difficult, just because of like what he was saying about like being hopeful and encouraging people to, you know, stick to their values but not to be violent, and it's very powerful, and it was even more powerful being like, ugh, like knowing what happened the next day. So that was kind of hard. So I gave that, I think, 4.5 stars. If I'm wrong, I will put the correct star rating at the bottom of the screen. I then read Malcolm X's speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, which has a very different tone. I kind of think I shouldn't have read them like back to back, because just the tones are so different. Like Malcolm X, his speech style is definitely more, it's more casual. It's also more frustrated. And he was I think it's called a separatist. And so he pretty much wanted black communities to be just black communities. He didn't want to contribute to white communities because he felt like white people come or let them in, because he felt that white people come in and steal what they want from black communities, and that is what leads to black communities sort of being turned into like slums or stuff like that. So it's really interesting to read about, because I wasn't alive, you know, when these speeches were given, so it just made me think a lot. So it was really interesting. I gave that 4 stars just because, I don't know, I felt like it was just more confrontational, which isn't a bad thing. It's definitely understandable. But it just didn't, I think, resonate with me as much. But like, these were great speeches to read, and both Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X were excellent, you know, orators, I think is the word. Speech givers. So yeah, so it was interesting. But that got me officially caught up on my reading goal, which was nice. And then I also finished listening to Proper Scoundrels by Allie Therin. And I loved it. It was so good. I devoured it. Like, when did I start listening to it? Sunday night? Yeah, Sunday night, and I finished it on Wednesday. So I did get the sequel because I just wasn't ready to, step away from that world. But I did see that, like, the third book, I think it's going to be a trilogy, but so the final book doesn't come out until, like, I think, like, March or something. So I'm like, but I am going to listen to the sequel next before I move on to One Night in Heartswood. Shouldn't take me that long. So yeah, I loved it. So I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was really great, and I'm excited to start the sequel tomorrow. So yeah, that's all the reading done. I did read a chapter of Thank You, Jeeves before I started filming this clip, but that is going to be my primary goal until I finish it. So like, I'm gonna go and get brunch with Stephanie, and then I have a writing date later tonight, and then I have like a little work thing I have to do, and then that's pretty much all the things I have to do. And in between all that, I'm going to be reading Thank You, Jeeves. And then tomorrow, when I have time at work, I will also read Thank You, Jeeves. And so my goal is to have it done by Saturday. We'll see. I'm on the 5th chapter right now, and I don't know how many chapters are, but I'm reading it on my phone through Kindle, and I think it said like I'm at 13%, so I have a while to go. So we'll see. Trying to get that done. But yeah, that's what's going on, and then I'm gonna go get brunch. Good morning, everyone. I'm in a different location. I'm on the couch that's always in the background. I just finished reading Thank You, Jeeves, and it was pretty good. It's funny, which is what you want in a Wodehouse book. Hi. Reese says hello. So this one was about, and I think I may have talked about it a little bit, but Thank You, Jeeves is about Wooster, who gets sort of like kicked out of his apartment because he's playing an instrument called the banjolele, which is a combination of banjo and a ukulele, and his neighbors are not fans. And neither is Jeeves, actually. So when Wooster decides he's going to move to the country where he can practice his banjolele without judgment, Jeeves is like, yeah, I can't do that. I have to quit if that's what you're going to do. So he does. He goes, works for a friend of Birdie's who happens to own a cottage that is the one that Birdie moves to. So there's hijinks there, and then there's a whole thing about Birdie's ex-fiance being in love with his friend, and the friend loves her back, but her dad thinks that, sorry about Reese's tale, thinks that she wants to marry Birdie. And then there's also this guy, Sir Roderick Glossop, who thinks that Birdie's insane, which, like, I get it. So there's that whole thing. So there's a lot of different moving parts. It is very funny. However, so there are just a lot of like racial slurs in this book, particularly one that is definitely not acceptable in America. Not that any racial slurs should be against Black people. And obviously it was written like, I think it's published in like 1934, so like times were different, language was different. I understand that. But it was also just like kind of just jarring. And I thought it was really interesting that Jeeves was the only person to not use that word. He used a variation of it. He used Negro a lot, which, while we don't use it nowadays, it doesn't have the same connotation, same impact, I think, as the other word. So it was just jarring. So I wasn't like a huge fan. I'm not saying that like impacted the score a lot. It impacted the rating that I gave it. But there were other things where I was just like, maybe this is a lot going on in this particular novel with like, there are like 3 different plots. So yeah, so I gave it a 3.5. Like, it wasn't like one of my favorite Jeeves and Woosters, and maybe the score would have been higher if there hadn't been slurs in it. like there have been slurs in other Wodehouse books that I've read, but it's still just like, it's just jarring. And like I said, I understand language was different. This was what, 90 years ago, but still. So there's that. I've been mainly focusing on like finishing that because I'm actually recording the podcast with my dad in like less than an hour, so I had to get that done. But I did I started listening to Once a Rogue yesterday, which is the sequel to Proper Scoundrels, and it pretty much takes place a week after Proper Scoundrels ends. And so Sebastian and Wesley are still very new. They're not quite sure what this thing they're doing is. They have a lot of insecurity. I'm halfway through it. It's a relatively, like, it's a little bit longer than Proper Scoundrels was, but I think at normal speed it's like 9 hours and 18 minutes, and I listen at 1.35 speed, so I'm plowing through it. I'm like 54% through, because I also went to Temple last night, so I had a lot of driving time. But with this, like I said, they're trying to figure out their relationship, but also they're in New York, and the other paranormals that they know that have reached out to them, or had reached out to them, saying that they want to see them, they're nowhere to be found now, which is concerning. And so they're trying to find these paranormals while also trying to navigate, their new relationship and what it means. And so it's still very cute. I still really like the banter. The spicy scenes are well done. So I'm very glad that I went ahead and continued with the sequel, because I think I would have really like been bothered if I decided to wait. So yeah, there's that. And then the next book I'm going to pick up is from my November TBR. So I'm physically starting my November TBR now. It'll be 13 Clues for Miss Marple, which I'm not necessarily looking forward to. I didn't like Miss Marple last time I read her, but we'll see. We'll see if this is different. All right, I have to get ready for the podcast. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to wrap up the vlog. I did actually like a decent amount of reading this week, if you count the 3 speeches that I read. But I am mainly coming to talk about, because I already talked about finishing Thank You, Jeeves. Yeah. So the only book I read after that, or listened to after that, was Once a Rogue by Allie Therin, which is the sequel to Proper Scoundrels. And I finished it last night. It helps that like it was only like 9 hours long, and I listened on 1.35 speed, so by the time I got home I had an hour left. And I pretty much just told Chris, I'm like, I'm gonna go lay in bed and finish listening to my audiobook. and I might just like go to sleep after that. So so I finished listening to it. I really, really liked it. I think that Allie Therin is an author that I will have to explore more, because I've never heard of her. I had never heard anything about either of her series about magic in the 1920s until I saw it in a bookstore, which is kind of interesting. So I'll have to, I think I mentioned earlier, like I've already added those series to my book wish list, and I'll have to look at whatever other books she has, because I really like her writing style. I think she does banter really well. I think she does spicy scenes really well. Her plots are really engaging. I was surprised by a twist that happened in Once a Rogue, so I gave it 5 stars. Like I really, really liked it. So yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I am bummed that the third book in the series, which is probably the final book in the series, does not come out till I think like March or June, sometime next year, which does suck. But yeah, no, it was so good. I thought that I personally am a huge sucker for Grumpy Sunshine, and that's exactly what Wesley and Sebastian were. And I especially love when like the grumpy person starts becoming a little more like emotionally vulnerable. They let down some of their walls because of the sunshine person, but they still have some like snarkiness. So Wesley, in my eyes, was perfect. I loved him so much, and I thought Sebastian was such a good compliment, and it was adorable how Sebastian pretty much always got his way. So yeah, no, I really loved it. Definitely go check it out. And yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I main reason I wanted to finish it last night is because part of the reason I went ahead and listened to What's a Rogue right after Proper Scoundrels is because it was, the voice was still in my head, and so I wanted to finish it last night, so I was giving myself time to sort of like have it get out of my head before I listen to a new audiobook, which will probably be One Night in Heartswood. So, and because that is also historical fiction, I'm like, I wanted I wanted like 2 days before I listened. So there's that. Yeah, that, I mean, that was all I read since last time I updated you. It was a good reading week. Didn't really do much. Like I didn't really do much, but I do have a lot going on next week, so that will be a little bit more exciting in the B-roll area as well as reading. I am looking forward to officially starting my November TBR. I know I already like technically have, but I've only finished one book for my November TBR for all the reading that I did this week. So, looking forward to that. But otherwise, I will have to let you go. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment, like the video, subscribe, click the notification bell. I really appreciate it. And I will talk to you next week. Bye.